You check the mail almost without thinking. A bill, a flyer, something forgettable. Most letters in your mailbox will never matter to anyone but you. But on January morning in 1974, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle that would outlive every person who tried to solve it. It was typed. 3 paragraphs, no return address. It opened by praising a film called The Exorcist, and then it claimed, almost in passing, to be from a killer who had not been heard of from anyone in years. The byline at the bottom read simply, Zodiac. By then, the name already meant something. 5 years earlier, a string of attacks across Northern California had left victims dead in Lover's Lane and along quiet roads. The killer wrote letters too. He sent ciphers. He demanded they printed on the front page or he would kill again. He gave himself a symbol, a circle crossed by lines like a target or a gunshot. Then, after 1969, the letters slowed. The attacks, as far as anyone could prove, stopped. And for investigators who had spent years chasing a man who seemed to want to be famous more than he ever wanted to stay hidden, the silence was almost worse than the threats. So when the 1974 letter arrived, it reopened something that had never actually closed. What made it strange wasn't just that it came from years after quiet, it was the tone, calmer, almost conversational. No demands this time, no new cipher to crack, just a voice claiming to still be out there, still watching. Here's what you need to understand about the Zodiac case before this letter makes sense. Between December 1968 and October 1969, at least 5 people were killed and 2 more survived attacks attributed to Zodiac. Detective Dave Toschi of the San Francisco Police Department became the public face of the investigation. The same detective, Steve McQueen, reportedly studied to prepare for Bullet. Toschi worked the case for years. He believed privately that he knew who the Zodiac was. He could never prove it. And the case, by his own accounts, never let him. Forensic psychologists who have studied in the Zodiac letters point to something specific. The killer's writing wasn't just communication, it was performance. Dr. Robert Hare's research on psychopathy, thought developed independently of this case, describes a pattern criminologists later applied to Zodiac, a craving for control maintained not through ongoing violence, but through the threat of it. You don't have to keep killing people if people still believe you might. That theory helps explain the quiet years, and explains why the 1974 letter felt less like a confession and more like a reminder. I'm still here. You just stopped looking the right way. 3 of Zodiac's ciphers were sent to newspapers in 1969. One of them, a 148-character ciphogram, was solved within a week by a schoolteacher named Donald Hardin and his wife Betty, working from their kitchen table. It revealed a chilling, half-coherent rant about killing being more enjoyable than anything else. But a second cipher, just 340 characters, resisted every attempt for decades. It sat unsolved for over 50 years. Professional cryptonists tried. Amherst tried. The FBI tried. It wasn't until 2020 that a team, software developed David Okrachik, mathematician Sam Blake, and Belgium codebreaker Jarl van Eyck, finally cracked it using custom-built software that could test thousands of cipher variations automatically. The message, once decoded, contained no name, no address, no real confession, just more taunting. Decades of effort, and what it gave investigators was confirmed that the killer had, in fact, been telling the truth about almost nothing except his own cruelty. That's worth sitting in with for a second. What does it mean when someone spends years constructing puzzles that, when finally solved, reveal nothing useful? It means the puzzle itself was the point, not the answer. The 1974 letter fits that same pattern. It wasn't trying to get caught. It wasn't trying to be understood. It was trying to be remembered. By the time it arrived, the official investigation had already stalled. Evidence has degraded. Witnesses had moved or died. Jurisdictions overlapped. Vallejo, Napa, San Francisco, each handling a different attack, each holding different pieces of a case that no single department fully controlled. Detective Ken Narlow of the Napa County Sheriff's Office, who worked the Lake Berrycia tabbing, spent years after maintaining that case was unsolvable. If only the agencies had shared everything from the start. That fragmentation is part of why the Zodiac case is still open. Not because no one cared, because no single person ever held every piece at once. Journalist Paul Avery covered the case for the Chronicle from the beginning, close enough to the story that he reportedly received a postcard from someone claiming to be the Zodiac, warning he could be next. Avery's reporting later inspired Robert Graysmith, a cartoonist at the same paper, to spend years compiling his own investigation, work that eventually became the book and later the film. That introduced Zodiac to many people who hadn't lived through the original terror. Graysmith named a suspect. Many investigators were never convinced. DNA testing on surviving evidence conducted decades later did not conclusively confirm that suspect or any other. So you're left with this: a killer who wrote consistently and yet revealed almost nothing real. A 1974 letter that broke years of silence to say, essentially, I have not gone anywhere. Without saying where that anywhere was, a cipher that took 51 years to solve and meant nothing once it was. A detective who carried the case until it became part of how people remembered him. More than any arrest he ever made. Why does this case still pull people in? Year after year, video after video, theory after theory, some criminologists point to the ciphers themselves. Puzzles invite participation in a way a simple confession never could. You're not just hearing about the Zodiac, you're being asked to solve him. And that not knowing keeps the door open in a way certainly never could. There were other letters after 1974, fewer, further apart. Eventually, they stopped entirely, sometime in the early 1990s, with no clear final word and no resolution. No arrest, no closure, just an absence where an ending should be. Cold case investigators still receive tips. DNA technology has improved since the original evidence was collected, and partial profiles have been tested against genealogy databases. The same method used to identify other long unsolved killers in recent years. So far, none of it has produced a confirmed match except by all the geneticists involved, which means that somewhere in the evidence locker or digital archive, the actual answer may already exist, waiting for the right comparison, the right database, the right person to look again. You check the mail almost without thinking. Most letters will never matter to anyone but you, but somewhere, decades ago, a typed envelope with no return address proved that some letters are built to outlast everyone who ever tried to answer them.